Sporting Pod as we come to you live from Grace Note Brewing. We're live. This will be recorded by the time you hear it, but hey, don't worry about that. That's just technology. We have just wrapped things up here after the watch party for the Copa America group stage matchup between Panama and the United States, in which Panama was given a 2-1 victory over the U.S. Does anybody think that is an incorrect statement that I just said? Along with Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cold Pepper. All right, now let me just get your takeaway here. You heard my kind of feeling on it. You had 2 red cards. You had 37,000 yellow cards in this match, but not nearly as many as they probably should have been.
Well, I think you saw the foul count at the end. I think there were 16 fouls for Panama and 3 for the U.S. Maybe we're a little too nice, but the one that counted was the Team Weah punch to the head that even in that environment is not allowed.
By the way, that was totally a red card. Should have been. Tim Weah needs to be turned over somebody's knee and spanked for behaving that way. That's not how you play in the U.S. men's national team. He's got to be way better than that. But, Tony, this suddenly puts that matchup against Uruguay on Monday. This is a must-have result now for the United States.
Yeah, it's unfortunately going to be way more meaningful and exciting than we had hoped for. I just want to say, too, after a match like that, I file a protest that we do podcasts after matches like this because it's such a bummer. It's such a bummer. So on Monday, we're not doing the podcast after the
listen, Tony, I did post-game shows for the Jaguars for 15 years. You don't have to tell me about that. I'm just pointing that out.
That explains everything.
Yeah, it does explain a lot. All right, we'll get a little bit technical in terms of the breakdown of what happened here tonight and then look ahead to what's going to go on Monday, which, by the way, we will be back here at Grace Note for a watch party. Be sure to RSVP to go to sportingjacks.com. That is going to be a massive game. Mauricio, we talked about it. The minimum expectation was to get out of the group. Now the United States needs a result and maybe a win. We'll see how it all plays out to get out of the group.
Well, that's why soccer's so interesting, because it's a game of small margins. You're talking about you can get red carded. There's really no other game in the world. I mean, if in the NFL you rip someone's helmet off, you get suspended or ejected, but you get replaced. Hockey is the same, baseball is the same, basketball is the same. Soccer is the only game that the underdog can have an upper hand if someone does something silly like that. And it's a game of small margins with goals and handballs and things of that sort. I mean, we almost had a PK called on us. So now the same thing can happen in our game against Uruguay. And if we get out of that group, the same thing can happen when we play Brazil or Colombia. So it's a game that anything can happen at any time, unexpected. These are still young people making young people's mistakes, like Team Weah. I'll keep talking about it because really, really selfish and silly on him. But from a technical standpoint, I thought that we went defensive way too soon, right? I mean, I get it. I understand the concept behind it. But it's not like they proposed a lot of problems at the end of the first half. We played with 10 for 30 minutes, and we were okay. And then you come back with a back line of 5 and 3 midfielders and 1 forward. I thought we could have been conservative, but still given us an opportunity to win the game.
By the way, we will take questions and comments from those who are here at Grace Note. So if you'd like to line up, here's the chair. We'll get you here on the podcast if you want to make a comment. Tony, you are one of the most optimistic, positive-minded people I know. You called the U.S. 1-1 game against Brazil a 1-1 win. Yeah. Do you feel different about this one?
Yeah, we didn't win this one. It was not even a draw. My thought, and I agree with Mauricio, the real defining moment on this was Weah. Yeah. Was that worse than the Serginho Dest when he flipped out and kind of did the similar thing? And did he do that under Berhalter? That's my question.
Kind of a lot of similarities there, I think. Mauricio, as a coach, how would you handle Tim Weah right now?
You give him some grace because that's not a behavior that you would attach to him, right? Something happened in that moment where ticked him off, he triggered him. And it's off the ball. You wonder if the player that he retaliated against did something underneath and it was just a reaction and he would recognize it was a wrong reaction. But I think you do ask him, hey, what happened? Right? And you try to kind of take and give him a little bit of grace in that moment because he's a young man that made a mistake. Hopefully, Tim Weah will be the first one that comes up and stands up in front of the team and apologizes for his behavior. And at that point, you really almost don't have to address it, right? And that's kind of what you hope from that moment. And Tim Weah has shown us anything but that he's professional, and you might just count this off as just as one-off incident.
I want to remind everybody that here on the podcast, we are also fed by the Bearded Pig Barbecue, 2 locations, Jacksonville Beach and San Marco. For good folks, great times and great barbecue, go to the Bearded Pig, as I did last night. There's the beard and the oinks to follow.
They pay us.
Also, yeah, they do pay us. They're great sponsors and great supporters of Sporting Jacks. Now, let's look ahead now, because in the next several days, there's a bit of an emotional reckoning probably too, Tony, when you have a setback like this with at least one really bad mistake and maybe several others that can be pointed to, whether you're talking about the approach that Greg Berhalter used, or you're talking about mistakes in goal, mistakes defending. You got to get your mind right now.
Yeah, it's and you only have a couple days. It's a long weekend for these guys. Hopefully they get it together. Bolivia might do something interesting tonight and make it even a little more interesting. So,
told you he was optimistic.
Yeah, they at any moment anyone can be CONCACAF'd.
That is true.
Yeah,
you could get CONCACAF. That can happen. We also want to remind everybody, by the way, if you haven't already, tune in to our weekly radio show on 1010XL, Monday nights at 6. Mauricio and I, joined by Becky Burley. Occasionally, Tony pops in there. And then also our weekly television show on ABC 25, Wednesdays at noon, and then replaying Saturdays at noon, plus on First Coast News Plus or on our Sporting Jacks YouTube channel. Okay, I've got all the plugs in now. I'll also remind everybody, if you're coming to the next watch party here at Grace Note, which is Monday, become a season ticket owner before you do that. Put your deposits down for season tickets, and you can buy one, get one free beers through the course of the watch party. Mauricio, I had the expectation after the performance against Brazil, maybe even after the performance against Bolivia, which it kind of went as we thought it would, that this was sort of a fait accompli that the United States would be in the group stage. Now they have to realize that's not just a done deal. How would you get this team prepared mentally between now and Monday?
Well, there's a game to be played yet tonight that determines a lot of different things as well. So maybe Bolivia will surprise some people and kind of help us out. Maybe get a tie out of Uruguay. You're shaking your head like that's not a possibility.
Not happening.
But,
By the way, by the time you listen to this podcast, you'll know whether I'm right or whether Mauricio and Tony's optimism is right.
Well, based on Tony's optimism, yeah, we'll go with it. Yeah, but, anything can happen. I actually think that when you play against teams that don't look at the U.S. as the superior team, as Bolivia and Panama played, Uruguay is going to come out and press. Uruguay is going to come out and play big, and that leaves opportunities for the U.S. I mean, you don't have Team Weah next game, of course, but we're pretty quick, and we get on a counter, and teams that get themselves opened up against the U.S., I think they're open to situations and for us to be able to kind of get a score. I think we struggle against teams that sit in on us, right? Because we don't have that one. I mean, we have some players that pretend to be or could be, like Joran and Pulisic, and at times they do it. But we're actually better against teams that open themselves up. Now, we have to be better defensively for sure and defend better. But Uruguay are going to come out and play. Now, once again, let's see what happens tonight. And we might be playing again. If Uruguay wins, and based on your nod heading, they should win, right? Then that means Uruguay is playing with a reserve team against us because they're already through. So if Uruguay comes play with the reserve team, not trying to get injured, then once again, opportunity opens up for us to be able to go. You saw Portugal lost to Georgia yesterday.
Go Dogs.
For $1 million, where's Georgia located in the world?
Just north of us. I've been there.
Anybody? No, you guys don't count. Not Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, because that's upstairs. Right, you got to tell me Georgia's 3 bordering countries for $1 million. Not you don't count.
I might be able to get that. I might be able to get that. We know Russia's one of them.
I have a big check waiting for you outside. If you get it right, I have a big check waiting for you outside.
I'm pretty good on those geography quizzes. That being said, yes. Listen, it's not like every result is guaranteed. There's no doubt about that. But this is the biggest tournament that the United States men's national team will play in between now and the World Cup. Again, Tony's going to hate this because this is the pessimist or maybe the realist coming out in me. If the United States doesn't get out of the group stage, does that mean changes are coming? Like, there is still 2 years until the World Cup is played on our soil. Do you have to make changes in the biggest litmus test that the U.S. will have before the World Cup?
Yes, I'm an optimist, but I also feel like for sure if we don't get out of the group stage here, that some changes are absolutely needed. I would argue if we just ran roughshod through this tournament, we should be looking at the team over the next 2 years. We've got such talent. We need to get them all ready and playing better than we saw today.
And to me, it's not just about player selection. It's about structure and approach. And Mauricio, you and I have talked about this both on and off air, on and off the podcast, on and off TV. The way that the selection process happened with Greg Berhalter coming off of the last World Cup was disjointed. And now, here we are having these the Colombia result got everybody's attention. It was a wake-up call. Berhalter's, basically saying that they didn't play the way he coached them. But if the team's not playing the way you coach them, after a certain point, it's on the coach because the message isn't landing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it is a reflection on how he wants the team to look like versus what the team could look like from being realistic. I still think that, while we have players playing at world stages, how many of them are performing at those stages, right? How many of them are the top players in those stages? So in a way, I still think that we should go into games feeling like the underdog and having that fight in us that the U.S. has always had. One thing that's always been fun to watch about the U.S. is the fight. And I think under Berhalter, we play more elegant. We try to play a style that mirrors more of the Spain and France and Brazil and Argentina. And I think that there's a way that we can mix the two a little bit more without losing the dog in us, which is the U.S. and the way that they kind of play. And I think this generation, while super talented, probably the most talented, have missed a little bit of that toughness that's always been the DNA of the U.S.
Yeah, I actually think I saw some of that today when they went down to 10 men. We've seen that in short spurts, but it hasn't been a sustained thing. All right, once again, we'll take some comments and questions from folks here as we continue. But, Tony, give me your big picture feeling now going forward as obviously a huge U.S. fan. What do you want to see?
Yeah, well, we're just going to have to come out and play our game against Uruguay. We're really going to hope that I almost do hope that they are resting on Monday. But Mauricio was talking about we're playing top level. Every starter on our team plays in the top league. That's not true of Panama. We just got bodied by a Reebok kit. That's something to consider. We got to do better.
I will also say, by the way, and I don't generally like this, but I thought the referee was subpar today, suboptimal. Way too many times had to go to VAR to reverse a move, play that seemed pretty obvious. Again, we're watching on television. It's in real time. But I didn't think it was a very well officiated game today. Mauricio, you referred to the fouls and the yellow cards and so forth. That's not an excuse. It's an observation. And if you're the United States and you're in the top, 11th in the FIFA rankings, you can't let a team ranked so far below you come in and do to you what the United States allowed Panama to do here tonight.
Yeah, you can. And while probably the calls that the referee made were correct, I think there was a body language and there's like an animosity to the way that he conducted himself in between those decisions that doesn't sit well with players, and they kind of grow a little bit, at unease the way that he is. And you can tell him like the way he was telling people to push away. There's a little bit of like that animosity to him rather than being a stoic and just kind of playing his role. I think he did, to a certain extent, became part of the game where he should just kind of blend in the background of the game. And I think most of the refs in this tournament, even Euro Cup, have done that. They've kind of just maintained a good professional posture to him. Now, did he impact the game negatively or not? Once again, I still think that we're a young team at times. And I think our mentality kind of gets the best out of us. Our youth gets the best out of us. And to your point, Tony, if we don't win or we don't get out of the group successfully, I think a change would be good. I think a change would be needed, and I would open it up to an international renowned coach at this point.
Jurgen Klopp. Okay, listen, Tony hates that as an Everton guy, but listen, Klopp needs a job. Just saying. We also want to point out that coming up on July the 27th at Everbank Stadium, the Stateside Cup will be taking place. West Ham against Wolves, and before that, starting at 5 o'clock, we are helping to run, Mauricio, you'll be a big part of this, the youth clinic that will take place in the Flex Field. We were just out at the Flex Field the other day. Fred Taylor joined us, and of course, Sporting Jack's co-owner, and very excited about what we can do for youth soccer players here in the area, not only to be able to see some Premier League clubs play, but also get a little coaching from some Premier League coaches and players.
Well, some of the players that we're watching playing in the Euros right now and playing Copa America, they'll be representing Wolves and West Ham United. So I think it's a great opportunity for our local community, especially our players that typically only see these players are seeing them playing right now on TV, and we'll see them playing on typical Saturday mornings in the EPL. They'll be playing in our backyard, and that's the first time that we've had two Premier League teams playing here in Jacksonville. So again, getting experience to come out and play and train a little bit prior to it with some of their staff members, and then go out and actually watch them play. I don't know when we'll get that opportunity again. Maybe with the Stadium of the Future, is that what it's called? That would happen, way after. But right now, it's a great opportunity for our young people to participate in a really great event.
And we know we're going to see those starters because of these tournaments. They're not going to have a lot of preseason matches. And so these are going to be one of the very few preseason matches that they'll be able to play. The other thing that I think is remarkable about this is the accessibility. So I think the lowest price ticket at Everbank is $35 for this match. Very, very difficult to find this level of soccer. I mean, I don't know what the tickets were in Atlanta this time, but they're super expensive. Now, I would rather watch some of the stars of the Premier League, frankly, than some of the, CONMEBOL and CONCACAF, dregs, personally. So I'm looking forward to it. I think accessibility is a big thing. You're going to be able to go to this match, hopefully.
One more thing I'm going to tee Tony up on. Today, we were out at a ribbon cutting, a launch and opening of a new park in Jacksonville, which is Lift Every Voice and Sing Park. As you may know, the motto of Sporting Jacks is Lift Every Voice. And Tony, of course, you got a good shout out there as part of that. And you are maybe the number one fanboy of James Weldon Johnson in our city. Really a cool space out there. Great to be able to connect the history of where the Johnson brothers grew up and where they wrote that song. And also, as it connects to Sporting Jacks, I think we're going to have a lot of moments out there at that park in the future.
Yeah, it was really phenomenal to see. The city of Jacks and Jacks Parks did an amazing job with the park. It's really hard to do a small park. They knocked the cover off of it. And, it's been 20 years in the making. That park is the birth site of the brothers. And a lot of people say they wrote the song on the porch there in La Villa. The thing for me is 20 years ago, it was a dirt overflow parking lot for the Prime Osborne with weeds growing on it. And it wasn't befitting of how amazing these guys were that came from La Villa. James Weldon Johnson has done so many things. If you get a chance, please read his autobiography Along This Way. It'll, like me, he became a mentor to me. So.
Right, it was cool to be out there today and see all the different people who were involved there. And again, we'll probably have some events going on out there at that park in the future. All right, that'll do it after a 2-1 Panama win over the United States. Ugh. My thanks to our friends at Grace Note here for hosting the watch party. We'll be back here on Monday night for a pivotal matchup against Uruguay. If you haven't already RSVP'd, go to sportingjacks.com or our Eventbrite to RSVP. We'll see you later. Thanks so much for joining us right here on the Sporting Pod.